But I think what we do know is fans love the atmospheres. Fans love what it brings. But baseball's actual format is different than the other four major sports. Hockey and basketball. They're saying, hey, we're going to make them 7-game series. And we actually, Brad, we talked to Trevor Hoffman, Hall of Famer from the San Diego Padres back in the summertime. We saved this for now because I think it's really relevant. And the conversation was, should the MLB consider expanding the playoffs? So let me pull up that video for you guys and let you guys be the determining factor here as we have this discussion.
I do. I think everybody was riveted to the television the last month watching the Stanley Cup Finals, and the NBA Finals. The finals itself in the basketball arena didn't pan out maybe quite the way that everyone wanted to. Celtics are a pretty tough unit to beat, but McDavid got hot in Edmonton, and they pushed the Game 6 tonight. People like the Game 7s. They like the long series, and I think that in baseball, we could dominate October. And all you have to do is, I'm just not a big fan of the 3-game series. We talked a little bit off air about 2008, I think, when the Rockies got really hot, and I ran into them, or I was one of the guys that gave up the blown save in Colorado in a 1-game playoff. Those are always exciting. And I think, we had that one year where 4 teams decided their fate in a matter of 15 minutes. That was crazy, but I'd love to see all 7-game series. I think you build your roster based off of that out of spring training to battle a full season. That season doesn't need to be 162. You cut it back to in the 50s. We had that long before. And then you have all 8 teams in each league battle it out with 7 games. And I think the true winner would ultimately show up. Like momentum swings are great. And you go 2-2, and all of a sudden you have that 3-game series with a lot of drama built up to that point. And I just really think we'd have a lot of eyeballs all throughout October. It would compete with the NFL, absolutely. I think people would turn on playoff games over a random Thursday game of somebody that doesn't matter in the NFL.
Yeah, he had to throw that one little part in there right at the end. A little zinger. I'm trying to get that off the screen. There it is. But it's an interesting conversation. The one part is if you expand it, you're letting in some other quote-unquote mediocre teams or teams that maybe shouldn't be in.
Yeah.
But the thing would be is the team that has more depth and more talent can line up to win a 7-game series. And we had Jason Worth on as well. He always felt the Nationals, they had the best team, but when there was a shorter series and a team was coming in hot, anything happens in a best of 3, best of 5 situation.
Yep.
And so I don't know. I kind of would. I'd be fine with divisional series, championship series, World Series 7-7-7.
Yes.
And let the wild card stay as a 3-game. And
I think 5 would. I think 5 for a wild card series, because 3 games is just not enough. You're basically just playing another regular season series.
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't like Hoffman was saying, like it doesn't build any sort of anticipation. It's just like, well, you're down, you go 0-2, or even you go 1-1, and then it's like the series is over. It doesn't really have any sort of build up to it. So it would be cool if there was like a 5-game wild card and then 7-7-7.
Well,
I'd be fine with that. And then also, look, we're seeing it again this year. The bye's got to go. There's too much time that goes between, the best teams in baseball that now are out of rhythm, out of sync. And we see this with the All-Star breaks too, how they take a little bit to kind of readjust after being off. Even though it seems like it's not a lot of time, 4 or 5 days, it's an eternity when you're used to playing every other day or every day throughout the course of a baseball season. So I think, in my opinion, the byes just have to go. They don't make any sense, and then it ruins the playoffs, in my opinion, because you're not seeing the best teams really actually at their best.
So I wonder then if we flip it then, Zach. What if we say, hey, and this isn't going to happen either, but then you eliminate some playoff spots and say, hey, the regular season matters. You got to get in. The best teams get into the playoffs, because now what we're looking at, an 84-win Diamondbacks team went to the World Series. Texas Rangers, as the second wild card, went in and won the World Series last year. The Tigers, who were the last wild card spot at the moment, are on the verge of going to the championship series. Now, they were great down the stretch. It's a great story. But they were not good for the first 2 or 3 months of the season. So I don't know, Zach. It's not going to happen here, but it's more so of, I don't know. I think that is a conversation that people are wondering about the product of the play. But the product of the playoffs has been great.
Yeah.
It's entertaining. So that's the part where I think people juggle.
So I'm going to play kind of devil's advocate here.
Of course you are.
In the fact that I love chaos. I absolutely love chaos, especially playoff chaos. And the 3-game series in the wild card is chaos. The 5-game series in the DS is chaos. I agree. If we want the best teams, if they want to have the best teams to avoid last year, let's just be honest. Nobody was really, if you looked at the beginning of last year's playoffs, saying the matchup I want is the Diamondbacks and the Rangers.
And that reflected in the ratings. Nobody watched
exactly.
it. And so that's bad for baseball.
No, and I get that. So I'm saying if you want the best teams to play, make them 7 because you're going to get more times than not the best teams. But if you want to see this chaos, if you want to see suddenly we're looking up and it's the Diamondbacks of all teams, I'll even say this, it's not foolproof that if you go 7 games that you're going to get the best teams because the Phillies were the hottest team on the face of the earth last year in the postseason. They looked like, and it was reflected in the first 3 games of the NLCS. It looked like they were going to wipe the floor with the Diamondbacks. It was like, well, Diamondbacks got to go win 2 in Philly. That's not happening. Game over. We'll see Philly in the World Series. Diamondbacks still found a way. So obviously baseball is baseball. There's chaos within the game either way. So you're going to get upsets. But I kind of like the chaos early on. You still want to see the best teams make it. But I love the stress at the beginning of, hey, you can just drop 2 games and you're out of here.
The stress is what makes the postseason so damn fun. The big moments are what make it so damn fun. I just think in some cases, this is the argument that if for other sports where you play a lot of games like the NBA, like the NHL and baseball, would you then consider adding more playoff games? Because I'll tell you what, the other part of looking at it from a business standpoint, more people will go to a postseason game than to a final game in the last week or 2 of the regular season. Yeah. They would pay to go. And if you're talking about making more money, that's how it is. I'm not saying that's what I want, but business-wise, kind of makes sense.
Look, it's a March Madness effect, right? Like the more teams that you have playing in a bracket-style playoff, the more people are going to go crazy when like a low-seeded team starts making that Cinderella push. And I see that Ellie here says that, I prefer the old format of not many teams making it. And you take out a lot of the excitement. It's like from a business standpoint, if you're Major League Baseball, you want eyeballs on your product as long as possible. And so like when there's only 4 teams left to make it to the World Series, then like you're kind of you're most people are not watching that unless it's your team, right? So from a national standpoint, from an eyeball standpoint, you're going to want more teams into the playoffs. And so I think that's probably what this actually evolves into. But I think the formatting does need to be tweaked just a little bit. The bye is just way too long. Yeah. We're seeing the bye teams still suffer in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. Ever since they've done it, I think only like 2 teams have advanced that have had a bye or something.
I don't know if any of them have made it to the World Series.
No, Houston's the only one that's cracked that code.
And Houston's Houston.
And then they just had their streak ended here.